Namaskar, good evening. It's 9 p.m. and you're watching the news on Sansad TV with Rajiv Kumar Singh. In the next half an hour, we will bring the top news from the national and the international arena. Let us begin first with the headlines. Centre bans wheat exports with immediate effect. Decision comes in the wake of globally rising prices. Stress on taking care of neighbouring and needy countries. Vice President calls for making agriculture climate-friendly, emphasizes quality agricultural research at the graduation ceremony of ICAR in Hyderabad. Survey of Gyanvapi campus starts amidst tight security. Work to continue on Sunday as well. Court has sought report by 17th of May. Judicial inquiry ordered into Munka fire accident. 27 killed, many injured. Death toll expected to increase. Compensation announced for families of victims. Colombo thanks India for supplying 65,000 tons of urea. Move to provide immediate help in paddy cultivation. Let us now take a quick look at some more important news stories of the day. President Ramnath Kovind leaves on two-nation visit to Jamaica and St. Vincent and Grenadines. First session of new Uttar Pradesh Assembly to start on 23rd of May. Governor Anandiben Patel to address joint session of both houses. IMD issues orange alert for extreme heat in Delhi, Punjab and Haryana on Sunday. Temperatures to touch 47 degrees centigrade. Rain likely on Monday. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar signs condolence book at UAE Embassy on passing away of late President Sheikh Khalifa. Assam government distributes nearly 23,000 appointment letters for various posts. Chief Justice of India N. V. Ramana lays foundation stone for construction of new High Court complex in Srinagar. Indian men's team in badminton creates history, enters final of the Thomas Cup by defeating Denmark 3-2 in the semi-finals. North Korea confirms 21 more deaths, over 2.8 lakh people being treated for unknown fever suspected to be COVID. Asian Development Bank to provide $2.5 billion in additional loans to Pakistan. 95th edition of Academy Awards to be held in Los Angeles on 13th of March 2023. Now, news in detail. India has banned wheat exports with immediate effect as part of measures in wake of the rising prices globally. The Director General of Foreign Trade issued a notification to this effect. It said the export policy of wheat has been amended to manage the country's overall food security and help neighboring and vulnerable nations. The export ban comes in the wake of disruption in global supply of wheat due to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Russia and Ukraine are major exporters of wheat. India's wheat exports rose to 7 million tons worth $2.05 billion in 2021-22 on strong global demand. 50% consignments were sent to Bangladesh. India was expected to export 10 million tons of wheat in 2022-23. India's wheat procurement has also declined by 44% to 1.62 lakh tons. The government has procured 2.88 lakh tons of wheat in the year-ago period. Amid rising demand for food grains for export, private companies have procured wheat at prices above the minimum support price. At least 27 people were killed and 12 were injured in a fire in Delhi's Munka on Friday evening. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has announced a compensation of rupees 10 lakh each for the families of the dead. Those who have sustained injuries will be given rupees 50,000 as compensation. Kejriwal has also ordered a magisterial probe into the incident.
Relatives and friends of those who died in a fire in a 4-story commercial building in New Delhi gathered outside a hospital mortuary on Saturday to identify their loved ones. At least 50 people were rescued from the building. 27 people were killed and 12 were injured in the blaze, authorities said. 11 of the injured people have been identified. Sangeeta Rani made a narrow escape from the flaming building using a rope near the window.
खिड़की से रस्सी पकड़ के मैं निकली नीचे, मैं नीचे गिर गई। वहाँ पे कुछ लोगों ने मुझे सपोर्ट करा तो मेरा हाथ जल गया। वहाँ पे आग भी लगी हुई थी, जहाँ रस्सी बंधी हुई थी वहाँ आग लगी हुई थी।
The fire started on the first floor of the building that houses the office of a CCTV camera and router manufacturing company. Owners of the company, Harish Goyal and Varun Goyal, were arrested. Their father, Amarnath Goyal, was among those who were killed in the fire. The owner of the building, which did not have safety clearance from the fire department, has been identified as Manish Lakra and he is on the run. According to the fire department officials, information about the blaze was received around 4:40 p.m., following which 24 fire tenders were rushed to the spot. There was only one staircase due to which people could not escape the building. The Prime Minister announced 2 lakh each for the families of those who have lost their lives. The injured will be given 50,000. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
The Meteorological Department has issued an orange alert for Delhi, Rajasthan and Haryana, warning that temperatures could touch around 47 degrees Celsius. Heatwave conditions and severe heat are expected for the next 2 days. Maximum temperature in Delhi was recorded around 44 degrees Celsius. However, cloudy sky and rain next week could bring some respite.
अगले 2 दिन के लिए यानी आज और कल ऐसे ही हीट वेव टू सीवियर हीट वेव कंडीशंस नॉर्थ वेस्ट इंडिया का जो प्लेन एरिया है और वेस्ट सेंट्रल इंडिया, स्पेशल स्टेट्स लाइक राजस्थान, पंजाब, हरियाणा, दिल्ली, उत्तर प्रदेश एंड मध्य प्रदेश, इस सभी इलाका में, इसके साथ साथ जो विदर्भ एरिया है महाराष्ट्र के, वहाँ हीट वेव कंडीशंस रहेगा और राजस्थान, मध्य प्रदेश, वेस्ट यूपी और हरियाणा में सीवियर हीट वेव कंडीशंस रहने का उम्मीद है। इसलिए हम लोग ऑरेंज और रेड कलर वार्निंग आज जारी किए हैं।
Heavy rains are continuing. Meanwhile, in the northeastern states, many areas have witnessed flooding in Assam since Thursday. The Weather Department has predicted heavy rain in many parts of Assam till the 15th of this month. Video survey work of Gyanvapi Masjid complex in Varanasi district of Uttar Pradesh started once again amid tight security arrangements. This will continue on Sunday as well. According to Varanasi Police Commissioner, the survey work went on peacefully. More than 1,500 policemen and PAC jawans were deployed to guard the Gyanvapi mosque complex. Movement of people was stopped within 500 meters of the Gyanvapi mosque complex.
सारा कार्य सुचारू रूप से चल रहा है। कोर्ट का आदेश है, कोर्ट के आदेश की तामीला कराना हमारे लिए हमारा दायित्व भी है, हमारी व्यक्तिगत जिम्मेदारी भी है। हमने सुरक्षा के पुख्ता प्रबंध किए हैं और मैं आपको ये बताना चाहता हूं कि अब तक की कार्रवाई बहुत ही सौहार्दपूर्ण वातावरण में चल रही है।
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu on Saturday called for enhancing the quality and capacity of agricultural research to increase agricultural productivity and farmers' income. He was addressing the graduation ceremony of the Agribusiness Management Program of the National Academy of Agricultural Research Management, ICAR, in Hyderabad. The Vice President suggested higher funding of research and development, which is currently less than 1% of the agricultural GDP. He also stressed on the need for assimilation of lab to land to increase production and incomes.
Research is to make people happy. Simply profitable is not sufficient. You need happy. For that, you need to remove all the obstacles. Peace is the prerequisite for progress. I repeat it everywhere. If you have tension, you cannot pay attention and have the retention. So this agriculture must be taken up with the passion, not as a fashion. Passion. And we should not give any remission or omission or go for commission in this mission. It's a mission.
The BJP named State President and Rajya Sabha MP Dr. Manik Saha as the new Chief Minister of Tripura after Biplab Kumar Dev submitted his resignation to Governor Satyadev Narayan Arya at the Raj Bhavan in Agartala on Saturday. Dev said he would work in the party organization to ensure BJP is voted back to power in the state in 2023. Jammu and Kashmir police conducted searches at 12 locations, including the ancestral residence of the president of APSC Pakistan in Bhardewa in connection with the terror financing case. The searches were conducted at a dozen places in Jammu, Kathua, Doda and Kashmir. The government may soon issue rules on linking Aadhaar card with voter lists. Chief Election Commissioner Sushil Chandra said it will be voluntary for voters to share Aadhaar details, but those who do not will have to go sufficient reasons for that. State-owned power generation company NTPC has commenced commercial operation of the first phase of its 56-megawatt solar project at Kawas in Gujarat with a capacity of 20 megawatt. With this, the installed and commercial capacity of NTPC has increased to 54,616 megawatt. 2,858 new cases of COVID have been reported in the country. The national rate of recovery has been recorded at 98.74%. The last 24 hours have seen a drop of 508 cases of patients under treatment for COVID-19. Ahead of Prime Minister Modi's visit to Lumbini in Nepal on Buddha Purnima, Uttar Pradesh Police and Sahastra Seema Bal have intensified vigil along with the Indo-Nepal border. Prime Minister Modi is paying an official visit to Lumbini on May 16th at the invitation of Nepal's Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deuba. India has assured immediate supply of 65,000 tons of urea to Sri Lanka for paddy cultivation. The Sri Lankan High Commission has thanked India for the help. Sri Lankan High Commissioner to Delhi, Milinda Moragada, raised the issue of fertilizers at a meeting with Fertilizers Secretary Rajesh Kumar Chaturvedi. Both officials discussed ways to maintain uninterrupted supply of chemical fertilizers under the line of credit given by India to Sri Lanka. Time for a short break here. Plenty more on the other side. Stay with us.
Entire Rafale package of weapons is going to be a game changer in the region.
Air Force's capability to be able to lift as much as 500 tons of load within daylight hours in one particular day.
How the Indian Air Force is able to accomplish such a range of tasks that go well beyond air operations once conflict and a war starts with the enemy. Watch our special presentations in The Defenders only on Sansad TV.
Let's now get you all the latest development from the Russia-Ukraine war. which is showing no signs of abating. President Volodymyr Zelensky said, although Ukrainians are doing everything they can to drive out the Russians, no one can today predict how long this war will last. This will depend on our partners, on European countries, on the entire free world. Zelensky said Ukraine shot down the 200th Russian aircraft of the war, and he noted Russia's heavy losses in tanks, armored vehicles, helicopters and drones. G7 nations have called on China not to help Russia, including by undermining international sanctions or justifying Moscow's actions in Ukraine. The G7 nations also said they would never recognize the borders Russia is trying to shift in its war against Ukraine and pledged enduring support for Kiev. Canada has called for a swift accession to NATO by Sweden and Finland. Canadian Foreign Minister Melanie Joly today told reporters that while it is important to have a consensus, there should be a swift accession of Finland and Sweden to NATO. Russia has suspended electricity supplies to Finland overnight after its energy firm RAO Nordic threatened to cut off supplies over payment arrears. The leader of Georgia's breakaway region of South Ossetia, Anatoly Bibilov, set July 17th as the date for a referendum on joining Russia. He signed a decree on holding a referendum, citing his people's historic aspiration to join Russia. Ukraine's Prosecutor General is raiding 41 war crime cases against Russian soldiers. The crime include bombing civilian infrastructure, killing of civilians, rape and looting. It was not immediately clear how many suspects would be tried in absentia. Friday marked the first war crime prosecution of a 21-year-old Russian soldier for the killing of an unarmed Ukrainian civilian in the early days of the war. A civilian was killed and 12 people injured in Donetsk region as a result of Russian shelling. The region has seen some of the war's fiercest fighting in recent weeks as Moscow mounts an offensive to capture Ukraine's eastern industrial heartland. The United States has again accused Russia of using the UN Security Council to spout disinformation and conspiracy theories about biological weapons in Ukraine. U.S. Deputy Ambassador Richard Mills called the Russian claims categorically false and ludicrous. Some other global updates in this quick wrap. Abu Dhabi Crown Prince led the funeral for former UAE President Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan on Friday. The body was carried by military escort and handed over to mourners at the entrance to the Sheikh Sultan bin Zayed, the first mosque in Abu Dhabi. Mourners gathered around the graveside as the Crown Prince used his hand to shovel earth into the grave of his half-brother. UAE announced a 40-day period of mourning and a 3-day suspension of work, including flags to be flown at half-mast. Israeli right police on Friday pushed and beat pallbearers at the funeral for slain Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, causing them to briefly drop the casket in a shocking start to the procession. Witnesses say Abu Akleh was killed by Israeli troops on Wednesday during a raid in the occupied West Bank. After the heated scene outside the hospital, the police allowed the family to drive the casket to a Catholic church in the Old City, which was packed with mourners. Chilean health authorities warned of a new wave of COVID-19 infections after a 36% increase in average daily cases over the past week, despite the country's high vaccination rate. Authorities confirmed 4,039 new cases of the Omicron variant in the country. The highest number of Omicron cases was recorded in mid-February, with more than 38,000 infected. Chile had administered 53.5 million doses of vaccine by Tuesday. China withdrew as host of soccer's 2023 Asian Cup on Saturday in the latest cancellation of the country's sports hosting duties during the COVID-19 pandemic. The 24-nation tournament was due to be played in 10 cities in mostly newly built stadiums in June and July of next year. China's withdrawal could let Qatar and Saudi Arabia step up as hosts, while both are bidding in a contest to host the 2027 edition. India and Iran are also candidates for the 2027 edition. On Sunday evening, the moon will pass through the shadow of the Earth, creating a total lunar eclipse. It will be visible over much of the world. People in South America and parts of North America will be able to see the full eclipse, and a partial eclipse will be seen in places as far apart as New Zealand and Eastern Europe. A lunar eclipse occurs when the Sun, Earth and the Moon align so that the Moon passes into Earth's shadow. The world is at crossroads where it must act to tackle the increased threat of drought or face the costs of lost crops, increased hunger and more deaths, according to the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. Its new report claims billions of people globally are affected by water scarcity, and not just people who live in underdeveloped nations.
In Somalia, the double impact of drought and war has led to a dramatic loss in earnings for people who try to live off the land. The United Nations International Fund for Agriculture Development is introducing its crisis response initiative in the region to reduce the risk of food insecurity and hunger. It says Somalia is one of the most vulnerable countries vis-a-vis food insecurity. Drought has been aggravated by the war in Ukraine because it's also pushed up the costs of fertilizers and fuel. According to the United Nations, the global population has to learn to grow more resilient crops with less water and rely less on animal products. The United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification has just released a report that says drought between 1998 and 2017 have incurred global economic losses of roughly $124 billion.
Up to 216 million people may be forced to migrate by 2050, largely due to drought. In addition, we're going to have increased, the trends are for greater frequency, greater severity of drought. So we could end up with far larger affected people around the world.
It's not just the poorer, less developed nations that are at risk from desertification. Farming practices and climate change are affecting more regions around the world. 129 countries will experience an increased exposure to drought because of climate change. After flooding, drought is the most widespread disaster threatening the world today, according to United Nations. And Africa is the worst hit continent. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
Latin America is no stranger to inflation, but the COVID-19 pandemic and the supply chain bottlenecks that followed in its wake triggered skyrocketing prices. Higher fiscal spending and the effects of Russia's invasion of Ukraine have pushed commodity prices, which has contributed to making a near-perfect storm.
Several Latin American countries are experiencing the sharpest rise in consumer prices in a generation. Staple food products are the hardest hit. Brazil's annual inflation hit 12.13% in April, the highest since 2003. In Chile, inflation was 10.5% in April, the first time in 28 years the index reached double digits. In Colombia, it reached 9.2%, the highest in over 20 years. And in Mexico, it was 7.68%, the highest since 2001. But inflation of food items was significantly more. Even in Argentina, where consumers have lived with double-digit inflation for years, the rise in prices has shocked consumers. Annual inflation reached 58% in April, the highest in 3 decades. Food is disproportionately responsible for the sharp increase in prices in recent months, with some basic essentials being particularly hard hit. In Brazil, consumers are flooding social media with complaints about how companies are trying to mask inflation by cutting back on how much product they include in packages. It is a global phenomenon, sometimes referred to as shrinkflation. Local newspapers are telling readers what they can use to replace their staple food products and make their money go further. While national governments battle their own inflations, the World Bank has said Latin America and the Caribbean as a whole is suffering from sudden price spikes for necessities. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
Now all the action from the world of sports. In badminton, the Indian men's team has scripted history by reaching the finals of the Thomas Cup for the first time. In the tournament being played in Bangkok, Thailand, the Indian team, which had never went past the semi-finals after 1979, showed tremendous fighting spirit as it came from a match down to outwit the 2016 champions Denmark 3-2. India now faces 14-time champion Indonesia in the finals. HS Prannoy produced a lion-hearted effort in the decisive fifth match of the Thomas Cup semi-final tie. Losing the first game, Prannoy trailed against world number 13 Rasmus Gemke. Prannoy also suffered an ankle injury after slipping on the front court while going for their return but the Indian continued after taking a medical timeout. Prannoy's on-court movement also got restricted, but despite all odds, he produced a sensational performance to come up trumps 13-21, 21-19, 21-12. Moving to boxing, Tokyo Olympics bronze medalist Lovlina Borgain's IBA World Championship campaign in the 70 kg category came to an early end after a disappointing loss in the pre-quarterfinals, while Pooja Rani cruised to the 81 kg category ahead. In cricket, it's crunch time in IPL 15. One team, the Gujarat Titans, has qualified for the playoffs. The two most successful franchises, the Mumbai Indians and the Chennai Super Kings, both having a disastrous season, are no more in contention. So it's left between 7 teams for the remaining 3 playoff spots. In the 60th match played on Friday, Royal Challengers Bangalore did their chance no good, first allowing Punjab Kings to score 209 for 9 and then reaching only 155 for 9 chasing the target, thus losing by 54 runs. On to tennis, Novak Djokovic has confirmed his stay as the ATP world number 1 ranked male player for a 370th week, winning his quarterfinal in Rome Masters against Felix Aliassime 7-5, 7-6. After failing to serve out both sets at 5-3, the Serbian regrouped to close out each one in supreme style. Tonight, Djokovic seeks his 1000th tour win when he meets Casper Ruud in the semi-finals. Before we close, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Centre bans wheat exports with immediate effect. Decision comes in the wake of globally rising prices. Stress on taking care of neighbouring and needy countries. Vice President calls for making agriculture climate friendly, emphasises quality agricultural research at the graduation ceremony of ICAR in Hyderabad. Survey of Gyanvapi campus starts amidst tight security. Work to continue on Sunday as well. Court has a sought report by 17th of May. Judicial inquiry ordered into Munka fire accident. 27 killed, many injured. Death toll expected to increase. Compensation announced for families of victims. Colombo thanks India for supplying 65,000 tons of urea, moved to provide immediate help in paddy cultivation. That is all we have in this bulletin tonight. This bulletin can also be watched on our social media platforms. All you need is to follow Sansad TV on social media. To keep yourself updated, keep watching Sansad TV. Take very good care of yourselves. Good night. Namaskar.